So welcome to Tim Spino. Tim's the head of E2E Summit. Welcome, Tim.
Yeah, thanks, David. Great to be here.
So we're here at NECA 23 in Philadelphia, National. What are you seeing out there on the floor?
Well, it's got to be the biggest show that I've seen yet. It was pretty amazing to see all the exhibitors and the contractors. But what I'm seeing this year more than anything is all the new technology. Right, you have a lot of the key people that have been here for decades. That have always traditionally been part of, the electrical ecosystem, the electrical community, the suppliers and so forth, but seeing a lot of technology on the show floor.
And I think it's both product technology as well as obviously construction technology or software and tools, things like that. As I was out on the floor, one of the things that struck me is just the sheer volume of apprentices on the floor.
Yeah.
And thinking about the challenges of the industry and attracting enough labor, training these folks, and then transferring knowledge from the folks who are retiring to the folks who are onboarding. Talk a little bit about the demographic challenge.
Yeah, so they, what's really cool is they do an apprentice, appreciation day, and today being Sunday, they're off work, they're off job sites, and I think, and I talk to a lot of those suppliers, the exhibitors. And they love talking to the apprentices because they get a fresh perspective. It's a fresh perspective. Remember, those apprentices are on the job site, right? They're turning the wrench. They're behind the tools, behind the applications, and that feedback for the exhibitors is phenomenal. But I would tell you what's really interesting is they're digital natives, right? So that demographic, when they see, things like, the companies that you have, Sparks IQ and material management and so forth, they understand it, they get it, right? So I think this show nowadays has a lot the same, if not more, to offer them because they're seeing the future of their applications and their workflows before they're actually companies adopt them.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I was talking with Lexi Abreu, who's one of the top TikTokers. She has about 1 million followers across various social platforms. Dustin Stelzer with Electrician U. These are some of the people we partner with to help really create the social community for technicians with our Trade Hounds app. What's interesting to me is the new generation, not only are they digital natives, they're also viewing manufacturers and other parts of the ecosystem very differently. And they really place a higher value, I think, on authenticity. And less of the corporate speak, less of the, let's say, impersonal stuff.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting to see how if manufacturers want to connect with the next generation, they're going to have to think differently about the pathways.
Yeah. What I've seen, and a lot of companies have adopted this, but it really needs to be really authentic. For electricians, by electricians, designed for electricians, by electricians. And that's true. But you have to be authentic about it. And the one thing is, if you're going to claim that, you need to back it up. And the proof is in the pudding, whether it's a user experience or just the way a tool feels and so forth. So I think that's different than just, hey, let's put a product on the shelf and just see if it, and see if it sells.
One of the things that we're focused on at Trade Hounds is being able to crowdsource content from electricians for electricians. So that is actually finding those electricians who are best able to communicate, those who have the most authenticity, and then guiding them through a process of creating content for manufacturers. For a long time, manufacturers have had bottlenecks. They haven't been able to support new product launches effectively. They haven't been able to communicate the value at the street level, not the typical corporate features and benefits, but really how do people use these products on a daily basis at the street level. If we can start to create new content that is really street ready, I think that will make a difference in connecting with this generation.
Yeah, and what's different is, so my background is product development, so that's kind of how I started. It was within power tool companies, and when I would have to go give voice to the customer, I physically had to go on a job site, and I had to just shadow, the electrician or the craftsperson, whoever it was, and I had to just understand what they were doing, and again, just the ethnographic way. That's the technical term of understanding, what they're doing. And now that additional, you still have to do that, But now with a platform like Trade Hounds, the next generation voice of the customer is just looking at all the threads and all the content and all the pictures and all, all the, job site application captures.
It's the greatest repository of insight. Yeah. I think that's, and a lot of companies are going to have to lean into social because they viewed, this video and image and sharing and all of that as just kind of out there off platform. But I think that the smart companies are starting to understand that these platforms are the greatest treasure trove of insight about their customers and what they really think. And it's unfiltered, and it's not the kind of, surveys that people are used to running up the flagpole.
Yeah. And I think what's going to happen, and it's happening now, but I think in our industry, what would be great is, we have the AI and AI based on, natural language. But if we could, have AI based on imagery, where people, manufacturers or just anyone could.
Or sentiment.
Yeah. Right. And be able to use AI to bring back images and captures of things they're thinking about, and that will be really cool that social media can fuel.
Yeah, and I think one of the advantages of a focused community like Trade Hounds is the ability to have several 100,000 technicians expressing sentiment on a daily basis. And we, for example, can start to poll them, what product do you think we need to have today that we don't have in a particular category?
Yeah.
And, people can really start to tap into that broad community perspective, which of course has much greater wisdom than any one of us.
Right. Yeah. It's absolutely from the source, from the person. And that hasn't really been that hasn't gone mainstream yet in this industry. That's why, let's say Trade Hounds, very contractor, very specific social media platform. There's nothing else out there that's really bringing that sentiment or that content,
and especially the focus.
Yeah, and their experience, right? Whether it's good, bad, or not so good,
right?
It's bubbling it up, and it's
the town hall. It's the town hall.
You're exactly right.
So we're working on a project together with IDEA around the supply chain. Can you talk a little bit about that project?
Yeah, so I've been asked to facilitate, moderate a project to help reimagine the supply chain, if you will. We all know the supply chain issues that have been going on for the last so many years, and they're not going away anytime soon. So this is the first time that NECA and the National Association of Electrical Distributors, the National Electrical Manufacturers Association, NEMA, and then NEMRA have come together to tackle a problem. And I am fortunate and flattered to be the facilitator of this group. So it's like boiling two oceans, saying, okay, fix the supply chain. Where we need to know is truly, what are the areas that we need to focus on together that will move the needle the most, right? So we've been going on for about a year, less than a year, and we've really been kind of mapping our current state and mapping our future state, and then kind of comparing the two. We're going to come together with some really, compelling ideas and meaningful concepts that we think
and
will
concrete
move the needle.
Steps.
Yeah.
I think one of the ones that we talked about, I was interviewing Josh Bone about this, and we talked about, just how much labor productivity is going to have to improve in order for this demographic crunch to be resolved, given all of the increases in demand in the electrical industry,
right.
EV charging and, solar and wind and all the green technology. There's just a huge amount of infrastructure work.
Yeah.
And that's before, we have all the retirements that are going on.
Right.
I was just going to say, one of the things that makes it so challenging is that labor productivity continues to be a pain point in the industry. And I think one of the most concrete steps that we've identified recently with IDEA is getting a single source of truth around inventory availability.
Yeah.
We know every day there's labor hours being wasted, there's crews sitting idle, because people don't know how to get material they need right away.
Right.
They don't know where it is.
Right.
And so people sit around on these sites, and that's one of the things where if we can get the top distributors to start opening up real-time in-stock availability, we can start to make a difference here. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. And, and again, the electrical contractor, for the last 5 years, they have gotten into the logistics game. They've had to be, logistic expediters, and that's not what they do, right? They build, the electrical phase of the building. They rely on the supply chain distributors and manufacturers to just, hey, I need this stuff at the right time, at the right place. And when that breaks down, and it's a perfect storm. It's a perfect storm of perfect storm that's causing that. It's not just one thing. It's not just COVID. It's not just globalization. And it's not, well, it's being exacerbated by the increase in electrical phase and the demand, right? But what it is the project delivery model needs to change because it's siloed, it's fragmented, and there's way too many handoffs. So I think where there could be insights and data, so I can see that silo and that step 2 months or a month or a week before I set my crew. I mean, that would be huge.
One of the things we talked about at the IDEA conference was the value not only of real-time availability to help people get things they need right now, but also being able to get the metadata from that type of network to understand upstream supply-side constraints, be able to infer them even before manufacturers necessarily.
Understand your risk profile,
Yes.
right? I mean, understand your risk profile and understand, the certain, critical path in the schedule. Are you all of a sudden ordering or aligning yourself with a certain, manufacturer or product that will not be able to be delivered in your critical path? And, the other thing too is not just, where is it available, but, if you were to take a look at the availability of the entire United States and understand what's available where, I'm sure, getting something from Portland, Oregon to Portland, Maine is not that difficult.
Depends on the product, right?
Exactly. And if you had those insights, you could do it. Yeah. But right now, I don't know of anyone that can say, hey, let me just take a look at all the distributors, all the shelves, all the stock. And, it's got to be there somewhere. It's not like the United States and our supply chain's completely out of stock. But that's how it's been because we're not smart enough of knowing where our inventory is at what point in time.
I think one of the things that's surprising is that with airlines, for example, we can know for a given flight route, a given time of day between two cities, what is the on-time performance rate of this? Yeah. What percent of the time is it canceled? What is the average delay? Yeah. These are very basic metrics, and yet we get to this mission critical material that's driving, a whole national agenda. Yeah. And we don't have even the most basic insights about what's happening.
And especially the main items, let's say, okay, the transformers and the switch gear and things like that. Right. Just like for the answer, kind of expanding on that thought that you had, I don't take flights in the afternoon because I know they're going to be delayed. They're most likely going to be delayed.
More delayed.
Yeah. I know I'm always going to take the first or second flight because I just know we don't have even that type of visibility or that type of risk profile or that heat map, if you will. We've talked about that.
What's funny to me about that, though, is if you talk to the distributors, a lot of times they'll complain about, these contractors are so cutthroat on price. And you think about the missed value opportunity. I mean, there are so many of them that simply want to remove inefficiency in their business. Yeah. And if we can start to show value-based approaches to helping contractors, I think it's going to change the focus on, haggling with people to get lower cost.
And that value added, I think, is all about proactive, right? Preemptive.
Well, there's certainly a lot of great opportunities in the industry for innovation, and just want to thank you for sharing your thoughts and appreciate it.
Thanks for talking, Dave. Yeah, appreciate it. And congratulations on your purchase of Trade Hounds. Yeah, fantastic. That's awesome.
Thank you.